With that down and out of the way, let's move on to our fourth main topic today. And our fourth and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Edward Howslter, who writes, "Hey, John and crew. I'm one of the many people who are going to be stuck at home for the next week or so. Probably like my wife, Anne, Hasbro has told people that they need to work from home for the next few weeks. So Anne is actually home for the next 2 weeks. So I was thinking a great addition to your show would be you recommending some great stuff we should and can watch from home this week to pass the time. Thanks." You know what, Edward? That is a fabulous idea, my friend. That is a fabulous idea. So for the rest of this week and maybe even into next week, our final segment of the show, moving forward, is going to be Stuff You Should Watch at Home. Dun, 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 dun. Stuff You Should Watch at Home. It's going to be the final segment we do on the show here for the next week or two, kind of suggesting to you some maybe not completely hidden gems, but maybe some underwatched, underappreciated gems, things that you, if you're stuck at home too, can be watching this week. And by the way, I'm going to want you guys to jump into the comment section too and give your suggestions of things people can watch at home, while we're writing this thing out and engaging in our responsible social distancing and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to talk about a couple of movies here. Rob and I each day are going to come up with one thing we think we should be watching at home. And Rob, you know what? I'm going to give the honors to you to start off today about what movie you think people should be watching. So let's start with you. What is your Monday pick for things you should watch at home?
Okay, this is a criminally underrated movie that I love that stars Blake Lively at her most radiant. And it's a movie called Age of Adaline. And Age of Adaline, I guess you could call it time travel, but there's no time travel involved in the normal sense. It's basically about a beautiful woman that literally has a fantastical event happen to her, and it stops the aging process in her. And she obviously stops aging, and she has to cover her identity and who she is. And it's a romance. It's set in San Francisco. Harrison Ford is in it, and Anthony and Gruber is in it, he was the kid that did that dead-on Harrison Ford impression that everybody thinks he should have played he should have played Han Solo in Solo. It's just a lovely, sumptuous, romantic film. It's a little film. It's not a big film, but this hit me right in the feels. I love this movie. I loved Blake Lively's I fall in love with female characters in movies, not because they're beautiful women or whatever, but it's the character itself, the overall character. And I always say that the supreme example of this is Grace Kelly in Rear Window. But her character, she plays Adaline in this movie. She's just lovely. She's just a lovely person. Even the way she talks. But my God, the dresses she wears in this film. And it's just this lovely, romantic, heartfelt story about growing older and what does it mean to have family and what is the passage of time like. And it's a film that kind of fell through the cracks. I don't know anything about the director. I don't know if he's done anything after that. And I love this movie, John. I own it on Blu-ray. I bought it sight unseen. I don't even know why I bought it. I hadn't even seen it before. Maybe I read something somewhere. Nobody talks about this movie. And I love this film. I just adore it. And it's kind of like there's a science fiction movie with Jared Leto in it that I should say. It's kind of similar called Mr. Nobody. But these two movies together, it's but Age of Adaline it's just, I think everybody should watch this film, whether you're a science fiction fan or not, whether you're a fan of romances or not, or whether you're just fans of movies that are both charming and thought-provoking. Age of Adaline is the kind of movie that even the person with the most blackened soul will feel a little warmed up by this movie. It's delightful.
You know, I never did watch Gossip Girl. I was never a Gossip Girl thing. So it was movies like this that made me fall in love with Blake Lively. She is a wonderful talent. She's so good and absolutely one of the most stunningly, male or female, one of the most stunningly beautiful creatures to grace the face of the earth with her footprint. I mean, she's just absolutely wonderful. And she hasn't always gotten the best movies, But
Right.
I've always adored her, and that was one of them. That's a nice pick. Age of Adaline. That's a nice pick, Rob.
Her performance in this film is just
So good.
You love her.
Yeah, you absolutely do. And that movie doesn't work, by the way. That movie doesn't work at all if the audience doesn't get absolutely emotionally attached to her and her performance.
Right.
It just doesn't
And
work.
the movie's outlandish, but it works.
Absolutely. All right. So you do Age of Adaline. I like that one a lot. So since today's the first day that we're doing this stuff you should watch at home, I'm going to do what some of you might even be predicting is the movie I'm going to pick. So I'm going to get my most obvious one out of the way first, and we'll get into some slightly more obscure ones as we move forward. But guys, the one I have to pick up here, and you guys know I consider this to be the single most underappreciated film ever. Not that I think it's the greatest film ever, but I think out of all the films that are just so good and so wonderful and deserve to be put up on this pedestal and this mantle, this movie doesn't get it, and it absolutely deserves it. And that movie to me is what I call the new age Princess Bride. It's Stardust. I got to go with Stardust. This movie, you guys have heard me wax poetic about this film in the past. This is a movie, and by the way, if you're thinking, hey, that guy in the middle looks like Daredevil. Oh, it is. This was a movie that had Charlie Cox and Henry Cavill, by the way. Had Charlie Cox and Henry Cavill. The basic idea of this, it's in a fantasy world and in a fantasy land where a shooting star crashes to Earth. And that shooting star is actually Claire Danes. And everybody's now after this shooting star and this common little Wesley, if you will. His name's not Wesley in the movie, but the Princess Bride analogy is Charlie Cox in it. And the two meet as well. It's got Michelle Pfeiffer, who is so freaking good in this movie. It's got Robert De Niro in one of my absolute all-time favorite Robert De Niro performances like ever. I love Robert De Niro in this. It's got Ricky Gervais is in it. And actually, let me run down the IMDb here. Ian McKellen. Let's see. David Kelly. Ben Barnes is one of the dudes in it. Kate McGowan. Charlie Cox. Sienna Miller is in it. Of course, Henry Cavill, we mentioned before. Peter O'Toole. Mark Strong. Peter O'Toole in one of his final major films that he did. Stardust is just magical. It's magical, and it epitomizes the best of fantasy. And like I said, the best way I usually know how to describe it to people is to say it is the new Princess Bride. I'm not saying it's better than Princess Bride. I'm just saying is what Princess Bride was to me when I was a lot younger. It's just that movie that had this joyous fantasy magic about it. To me, Stardust became the next evolution of that. It just became the next one to kind of, it became the heir to the throne of that. I just love this movie from top to bottom. If you've ever seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But despite the fact that I talk about this movie so much, Rob, I never cease to be amazed by how many people still tell me, yeah, I've never seen it or never even heard of it. Never even heard of it. And this movie is absolutely glorious. I love this film so much. So listen, guys. If you're at home this week, you got the week off school, week off work, whatever, you're home, kicking it back, do check out, treat yourself. Check out Stardust because it's just great. Did you ever have a chance? I never asked Rob if you had a chance to see Stardust before.
Oh, dude. I love Stardust. It's based on a Neil Gaiman,
yes,
I guess you call it graphic novel. And Neil Gaiman, of course, The Sandman is my all-time favorite comic. I'm a huge Neil Gaiman fan. His brand of fantasy is right up my alley. I adore this movie. First of all, Michelle Pfeiffer is another one of these actresses that I will watch anything that she's in. And she is luminous in this movie. And I love her to death. And like you said, what a cast this film has. And this movie is delightful from beginning to end.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? Because I contend that Stardust is, I personally feel like the most underappreciated film of all time. It's funny because I feel like the most underrated and underappreciated comic book film of all time is Man of Steel.
Oh, yeah.
And Henry Cavill's in both. Henry Cavill.
Well,
is like the king. Go ahead.
Matthew Vaughn directed this movie.
Yes, he did. That's right.
And it's funny, you think about what Matthew Vaughn has done, of course, X-Men First Class.
Kick ass.
It's not like and Kick-Ass, and of course the
Kingsman.
Where is the Gentleman? What happened to that? I know they pulled it from Elise or whatever, but or didn't they? Did it come out? It didn't, right?
Oh, I can't remember.
The King's Man. Pardon me, not the Gentleman came out. The King's Man.
Yeah.
But he did Kingsman, and of course the third movie, and this movie's kind of forgotten in his filmography, and it's because it's not like you wouldn't have thought he would have done it, but man, this movie is just what a delight.
Yeah, it's great. So anyway, guys, our 2 stuff you should watch at home recommendations for today is Stardust and Age of Adaline. Make sure you guys check those out. And of course, we'll do this again tomorrow. We'll give 2 more things at our picks. But by the way, guys, since you guys are the film fan community, jump down to the comment section and give some of your recommendations about maybe some underappreciated, some a little bit lesser known, some things that not everybody got out to see that you would recommend as some little bit of a hidden gem. Go on down and recommend that, and we'll give some more recommendations. By the way, Rob, a little bit of a spoiler alert. I already got my movie for tomorrow picked out, and it's one that nobody has watched. And it's got some big names in it, and it's one of my in my top 20 favorite comedies. Actually, probably my top 20 favorite comedies, and we'll talk about it a little bit tomorrow.